Hi friend, David here from Learn Christmas Lighting. And in this video, I want to talk to you about how to begin sequencing music to your Christmas light display. And so this one's a little bit different of a video than you might have seen out there. You can probably see here, I've got X lights up on my monitor here. I'll be referring to it a lot and looking at it a lot. And then I've got my camera here too, so I can talk to you. Because when we talk about, and this is, I'm doing this in X lights, but it would work the same in Vixen, it would work the same in Lightorama. Because what we're talking about today is basically how to look at music and just kind of a brief introductory guide of how to look at music and figure out how to build effects that match it within X lights or Vixen or whatever. And so this isn't as much an X lights tutorial. You can check those out here, or a Vixen tutorial. You can check out those here. But this is more about, okay, now that I've got some music picked out and I've got lights on my house, I've got a display. How do I meld these two together basically and make something really awesome? So I've made my house preview here in X lights really big. And the song we're going to be working with today is, let me just double check and make sure my audio's on, is called What Child Is This? It's the classic Christmas carol by a Christian rock group called Seabird. And if you're not familiar with their version, it's just a rock song. It's the same lyrics, same words. And so what this basically does for us is it gives us the ability to look at a song, and I think this is a good example because it has elements, it has structure of a classic Christmas carol, but it has a rock and roll feel to it. And I can show you some tricks I use to really make music come alive in a sequence. Of course, this isn't a fully exhaustive tutorial, but I do have those, and I've been building them and creating more of them within Learn Christmas Lighting Academy, which if you're watching this now, we've actually closed it right now, but you can check out the waitlist for when I open it up again so you can join and see more tutorials like this with considerably more depth on Christmas lighting how-to from A to Z. So, not to make this a commercial, I want to teach you here. So I just want to go through the song real quick, okay? And so if we look at my models here, we can look at, if I drag my house preview a little bit out of the way. Oops, I docked it. Didn't mean to do that. If I drag my house preview, let's pull it over here, out of the way. You can see here there are some definite portions of the song that repeat. And this is my biggest tip when sequencing, because we see right here, we've got this melodic, thing. I'm not a musician. I'm a lighting guy, where it's repeated again and again. We hear that sound here. It's kind of a filler, of the melody, basically. And we've got it here. And it's the same in all those places. Similarly, we've got this portion. What child is this? Bring innocence, laid to rest. On Mary's lamp, laid to rest. And that's the verses. And so we have these different blocks. And so I think for a lot of people, it can seem overwhelming to sequence because you've got this whole song and it keeps changing and you go, okay, how do I make this work best with music? And so the first thing to do is identify the different sections of the song. Some people make basically a dummy prop in here where they literally go in and basically have a prop that does nothing in their show, a model, and they color code it, verse, chorus, bridge, whatever. I don't do that just because I don't think it saves that much time. But what I do is the very first thing I do is I go and I find the portion of the song that is the most complex, kind of the high point of the song, the most energy, the most complex. So take a minute, first step, and just listen through the whole song. Find that most complex part, okay? For this song, is it here? No, that's the bridge. I think it's just the choruses on this song. I'm just going to look through my models here. Yeah, so it might be one of these bridges or one of these choruses that's the most complex part. And so go ahead and sequence that first because lighting to music is all about dynamics. It's all about finding that high point of the song and that low point of the song, and then filling in between there. And you don't want to start like a lot of songs start with the low point of the song, right? A lot of songs don't just hop into the high energy. And this song is kind of a mid energy song overall. And so when you have that high energy part, you want to use all your props, probably. You want to have them moving, have them be active. And for the slower parts, you want to simplify down. And we'll talk about what that can look like. So start with the high part first. Start with the high energy, the complex, the most energy part of the song. Just write that down. Even if you go ahead, I often do this, and just you can see it in the audio waveform where it's really thick. Often that's the most intense part. But just sit down with a pen and a pad of paper and listen through the song. Go, okay, at about this time, it's this energy. About this time, it's this. There's a chorus here, verse, blah, blah. You could do it in a spreadsheet if you want to save it, but whatever. And so that's my thought is do that first. So for me, on this one, that's basically all these little refrain pieces or whatever they are that sound like this that we've looked at. So for this particular song, it's a mid-tempo song, and so I'm using probably about 75% of the props in my show in this song. I don't use them all. I save that for my highest energy song in my show. But I use about 75% of those props, including my incandescent lights, and or they're LED, but the AC lights. And during the most active part of the song, I have all those on, all going full steam ahead. Let's contrast that with the slowest part. So I just go, say I do here at the start even, or maybe in here where it's the busiest. And I sequence that out, okay? So you see here, I've got an effect on my porch outline, on my roof line, my AC lights are turned on, and then my chroma flakes are doing this awesome spinning thing. And the whole time my Tune 2 sign is just on in a single color. That was a very last minute ad. And so it's just a solid color for any song. And honestly, that works well. And so I sequence that first, and then I just go ahead and I go, okay, every place that this repeats, I copy that. Now look, I've already sequenced like half this song, okay? And that was just 10, 15 minutes into it. Next, I go ahead and I look at, okay, let's look at the slower parts of the song now, kind of establish that baseline low point. So for this song, that's the verses.
Salvation brings, let loving hearts enthrone him.
So that's the verses in this song. So I go make one of those, copy it over again and again. Now, some of the verses, for example, are going to have, I think there's one in this song where there's a verse with a little more energy, but it's mostly the same. So just copy your verse portion over to that part, and then we can tweak it. We can add to it a little if that verse is a little bit different. And so at this point, you've got, okay, the verses in the choruses sequence. Now I go ahead and look at the bridge, which I think is here. Yeah, there's basically two bridges. One is in this portion and one is in this portion. They kind of do the same thing. And so for those, I take a different approach. It sounds different. And so for those, I go ahead and I just run an effect over everything. And then I do a different effect over top of it on my windows. And so call me lazy using a whole house effect. I know, it's the lazy move. But you know what? People watching the display don't know. It looks good, and it creates some variation for a part of the song that sounds different. So once you've done, choruses, verses, bridge, now 90% of the song is sequenced, okay? So what's next? What are my last steps for sequencing music? My last steps are intro. This song has a cool drum part on the intro. Let me show it to you. Hope it would help if I put my house up, wouldn't it? So you could actually see what's going on. Oh my goodness, David. And so we've got that cool drum part where it's really just the drums, kicking one after another. And for that, I just pick out parts of my display and we hit it on the drum beats and then turn them off before the next one comes in. It took a little experimentation. It took some zooming in really close on the audio, and even going in X lights and slowing it down, which you can do here under the audio tab. Super helpful to have that quarter, that half speed, so you can slow it down, really line that stuff up. And so that really adds a unique flavor. That makes the song, when we're coming off the previous song, it gives a moment where, as we can see, it's like super dark. There's not a lot of light. And so it really creates a moment of impact because there's not a lot of light there. When those frames turn on in my actual display, and I apologize for losing my video, a lot of my good video from this past season, that was totally my fault. But you see that, and it looks really good. It looks really impactful. And so now let's go ahead and at that point, the last thing I do, just sequence-wise, looking at X lights here, is I simply go ahead and listen to it and start to do transitions. So if I select any effect or multiple, I can go in here and we can do under layer blending. There is the in transition and out transition. And when you go to do this, of course, you probably want to make this a lot bigger on your monitor. And that's where I start to set fades for a lot of these effects. That's where, I just watch through the whole song and find those transition points and set those fades according to what the music does. Again, follow the leader. The music's the leader. And most of them are pretty short in this song. Other songs, it's longer. And of course, fade in and fade outs are going to overlap each other a lot between the different portions of the song. Okay, so I set those up. I get it looking nice. I listen for any verses that are a little different, and I maybe add an effect in or two here. Then I watch the whole thing through, and I'm good. And so that is the basics of how I set up a show with music. It's actually less complicated than you might think, and I hope you learned a lot from this. If you did, head over to learnchristmaslighting.com, where again, I've got that free guide for you to get started with Christmas lighting. And also, if you're interested in courses and more really deep information, we've got the Academy, and you can check out the wait list for it as well at learnchristmaslighting.com/wait. You can see that below. Awesome. I hope you're having a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Merry Christmas.